Hello, creative friends. This is Joy coming to you with another art journal page. Um, I'm going to do an art journal page in my 9 by 12 art journal, and I'm going to do it on the horizontal. I have this junk mail that I got in the mail that opens up, and I'm going to put this on the page just so everything over and then create an art journal page out of it. I have a vague idea of what I would like to do with this page, but I haven't completely figured out all of the details. So I'm going to go ahead and get this down and get started and see where this takes me. Thanks for watching. So on this art journal page, I sped it up quite a bit because I didn't think anybody wanted to see me glue down, gesso, and paint a page. But as I mentioned in the beginning, I had this piece of junk mail that I decided to glue down, and I just used Aleene's tacky glue to glue it down, and then I just gessoed the whole thing. Funny story is, this is actually the second one that I did, because the first one I was so impatient about waiting for it to dry before doing the flap part that I put a piece of wax paper in between, and thinking that it would, keep it from sticking. Well, it got gessoed to the wax paper, and then when I tried to pull it off, it ripped. It ripped pretty good, so I ripped the page out, threw it away, and started over. Luckily, I ended up having here. I made sure it was completely dry, but I ended up having another one mailer exactly the same thing. So I was like, well, okay, take two. So here I've got it all gessoed up, glued down, and now I'm going to cover it with the Tim Holtz tissue paper. I really do like Tim Holtz tissue paper. I've got this one, and then I've got the other one um, that is like a postal type theme. And I just use Collage Page on this. And actually, I had gotten the Collage Page in a kit with some other supplies that I had bought a while ago. And this is the first time I've used it, on anything. It's a brand new bottle, and I thought, hey, I've not used this. Why not? Let's try it and see, how it works. And it seemed to work pretty good. I do like the way it worked. Well, I don't know what the difference in cost is between it and matte medium, but I suspect that this isn't as expensive, but maybe it is. Who knows? And then here I got a little bit carried away with it and just put quite a bit on the page, and it was too much. So I was trying to get some of it back into the bottle. So you saw me there. I was like trying to scoop it up and with the little spongy tool and get it back in there. On this particular journal page, I just decided to cover everything with the tissue paper, and there I clipped off from that corner a little piece to cover in the other corner a section that was not completely covered with the tissue paper. And then here I'm just trying to make sure that edge is down real good, and piecing together another little area where it wasn't covered. But I really like this tissue paper, and so I covered the whole thing, and I decided that I wanted to kind of tone it down a little bit. So after, you'll see here in a minute, after I covered everything with tissue paper and it was dry, I trimmed it up, of course, and then I went over it with some watered down gesso. Here I'm getting the gesso and then some water, because I don't, want it to be, the gesso to be too thick and be too opaque. I want it to, be more transparent. So I'm putting a light uh, layer of just watered down gesso over the whole thing to try to just push that tissue paper into the background a little bit and tone it down. so it's not as, as strong or as vibrant, I guess you could say. And then after I let this all dry, I decided that I wanted to paint it blue, like a blue sky. Kind of had an idea of where I was going with this particular page, but only, I guess, so far as the outside, because by the time I finally actually got to the inside, I was like, oh, okay, now what do I do, and so I ended up having to go off camera and go through my stash of, supplies and try to figure out what I was going to do with the inside of this thing. But here I just wanted, I didn't want to cover up, the tissue paper too much with the blue, so I was watering down. It's just regular acrylic, apple barrel, I think, craft acrylic paint is what it is. So I watered it down to put a light wash of blue, and then I wanted around the outside of this darker. And so you see me here going around the outside with a little bit darker blue. And the one thing I noticed though is, it looked pretty good. I got it to where I was happy with it, but then after I dried it, it was like lighter, a lot lighter than it looked when it was wet. So I actually ended up going around the edges a couple of times before I was satisfied with the color. And here, after it was dried and I looked at the inside, I really didn't care for that straight edge going all the way around. So right here, I was just trying to rub it with my finger around the edges, just to try to kind of get that edge to somewhat blend in and disappear. But funny enough, by the time I got done with this page, I felt like it needed some kind of border around the inside, so I ended up going back and putting a border around the inside of it. Anyway, so here on the flap, I was wanting to again do around that outside edge a little bit darker than the center. So I was just trying to match that on the flap to match the rest of the page. But like I said, I ended up going over this a couple of times till I was satisfied with the color that it was. So here again, a third time, because again, it just wasn't quite as dark around the edges as I had wanted it to be. It just, like I said, once I dried it, it just seemed too light, or lighter than I really wanted it to be. So just adding some more watered down blue. So I kind of built up the layers little by little to get it to, where I was completely happy with it. I figured it was better to start off lightly and then build up from there than to start off too dark and then try to tone it down, would be a little bit more difficult. So I did it this way instead, and I was happy that I did, because I'm pretty happy with the results and the way it turned out. And there I was just using a skewer, a wooden skewer. I have one that I keep in my stash with my pens and pencils, because it comes in handy for so many things. So I was just trying to keep the flap lifted so it didn't stick and get stuck to the bottom part. And here I'm just trying to draw my idea for this page, and unfortunately you can't see it too well, was to put like some couple of birds on a wire. And so I was just trying to draw these birds. I have a picture that's off camera that I'm looking at of a bird that I want to use. It's a colorful bird, and I'm trying to draw the bird in several different orientations. And there I show you what the bird looks like that I was trying to draw. And of course, since I sped this up so fast, that was a really quick look. um, And here I am going about coloring the bird with the different colors as it shows in the pictures. I really like the way that the birds came out as far as the colors and stuff. Not too crazy about, I guess, the way they were drawn. I don't know how I could have drawn them any differently to where I would have been more happy with them. But I don't know, just something about the way that I drew them. I wasn't too crazy about it, but whatever, it is what it is. So, I'm overall, by the time I was done with this page, I was pretty happy with the results. I mean, it's another completed journal page, and I had fun creating the page, and so I mean that's what's the most important thing, I guess, about doing these art journal pages is doing something creative and artistic and having fun while you're doing it. So here I'm noticed it was funny on the bird on the right. I made a mistake and got the blue into like the orange, and it made this kind of greenish color. And I was like, oh, well, I kind of like that. It's like almost a shadow color. So I kind of used that on all three of them for the shadow color underneath the wings and down towards the tail. And all of these colors that I'm using are also the apple barrel, like just craft um, acrylic paints, and so they're pretty. I don't really use anything too expensive. And I was showing you I'm using Sharpie pens to put in the beak and the eye and trace around the birds. I was having some problems. I actually I had to cut out some of this because I had like, these are the fine tip Sharpie pens, and I don't know what the heck I'm doing with these things, but they don't seem to last for very long. And I had like three of them there, and I was having a heck of a time trying to get them to work. And it's like after you draw with one, for a certain amount of time, I don't know if it dries up on you or what it does, but it does. Yeah, see, I'm grabbing it up, just trying to find one that'll work. It's almost like the tip dries up, and so you have to kind of wait, I guess, for the tip to um, end up being getting inked up again or something. So I usually have two or three I keep around to use. And as I was putting in the little feet on the birds, that one on the right, I didn't really particularly care for the way it turned out, so I kind of touched it up real quick and did a little quick dry and tried again. And I still don't like the way that the feet turned out on the second try, but I decided I was done. It is what it is, and I'm good with it, whatever. So it's like, good enough. Um, but I like the idea and the concept. I thought this was turned out to be a cute journal page, and I since it's bird on a wire, I was these three birds on the stand, that's on the wire. I thought it'd be kind of neat. It's kind of like birds of a feather. I was thinking flock together. And so here on the front, I just used some Bombay Indian ink and a pen to put on the front, birds of a feather. And then, of course, I dried it so that I could, you know, work on the inside. And here's a white Signo pen that I used just for some highlighting on the beak and the eyes. And like I said, this is where I was like, okay, now what do I do with the inside? So I had to stop the camera for a while and go through my stash. And I have a lot of like quotes that I've collected off of Pinterest, out of magazines, coffee news that runs around here. Wherever I could find quotes, I always clip them and save them and in a box. And so I got the idea of I was looking for one quote to put on this that would kind of go with the whole theme, but I decided to just put a collection of quotes inside here for, different things that, are inspirational quotes and whatnot. So I do like the way that this page ended up turning out. I really like the idea that I kind of got these quotes, kind of grouped together in on this page. I thought it turned out pretty good. Here I'm just going around some of them that didn't have a border and putting a border around them. So to try to give it more of a finished look, but then I still didn't think that it looked very finished, so I ended up putting a bigger border around the whole thing. But and then I ended up putting the rest of birds of a feather, putting on there flock together. But it's funny, there is a little bit of a mistake, and because I'm thinking feather flock together. See if you can see what the mistake is. But anyway, that's pretty much the page. So if you like the journal page and the videos that I put out, please subscribe to my channel, or you can like or leave a comment. I would love to hear from you. And here I'm just adding the rest of the quote. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Talk to you later. Bye bye.